Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, economist, and venture capitalist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the key issues defining the 2024 presidential race is Rabbi David Seidemann. Rabbi Seidemann is a professor, an attorney, and religious scholar. And now, Mr. Davis and Rabbi Seidemann.
Welcome back. It must be Wednesday, 6:30, and I'm delighted to join you. You are the real voices of wisdom because you send me such great criticism. Not always criticism that I appreciate initially, but like the Talmud teaches, you learn more from your students than you learn from books or anything anywhere else. So you all, with your comments, make me think and rethink positions that I have, that I'm so certain I'm absolutely right about. And then I rethink them and I say, well, maybe I'm right, but not so absolutely. And certainly the position you all present have a great case. So thank you all, and you're the ones that make the show great. Today we have a special guest, a former regular guest, a really brilliant guy, a rabbi, a lawyer, a scholar, a thinker, a philosopher, David Seidemann. He's like the chief rabbi of the 5 towns and beyond. So I can't wait to get on with this discussion. His undergraduate work was in political science, which is right up the alley that's so prominent currently. So I can't wait to hear his arguments. And he likewise gives me a hard time. Why did we invite him back?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm trying to figure out why you banned me in the first place. I haven't been here in a while. I live across the street.
You were too tough on me.
Too tough. All right. I'll go easy on you today.
He's really great. And he's very polite. Even when he disagrees, he's charming and warm. It's that rabbinical, pastoral attitude that he has. So it's very hard to be angry or ever. I could disagree with him, but not be disagreeable with him. So I'm delighted to have you back.
Thank you. And just to show you how I'm going to go easy on you, I'm not going to disagree with any of those nice things you said about me. Okay?
I told you it's great.
Okay. Well, I'm really excited about being here.
It's fun too. Anyway, before we get on to the nitty-gritty of this week's issues, and as I regularly alert you to the fact that the things we discuss after I discuss happiness, that's the reason I have the happiness book in here that I wrote with my daughter, Rookie Renoff. I want to launch that subject because all the rest, the news is always depressing. It's only news if it is sad or shocking. Really, it used to be in the old days, if somebody gave $100 million to a university or to a hospital, they made the front page of the Times. That doesn't happen anymore because it's a common practice it happens not too often. It doesn't happen often enough, but I'm saying it's more common, so it's not newsworthy. And you got to do something really remarkable and outrageous to make them in front of the New York Times, either as a country or as a political leadership or some individual act. You know, it used to be murders made the front page, but murder is so common. Assault weapons and multiple killings occur more than once every day in the United States. So that doesn't make. So to offset that, I want to give you, as I always do, something to introduce into your own life that I'm sure will make you happier. And the other thing I want to show you is if you get a copy of Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back, the subtitle is How to Be Happy No Matter What. People have told me it's changed their lives, hopefully for the better. They actually say for the better. So I want to make that happen to all my listeners initially, and to all of humanity, ideally or hopefully. So let me start today's with the suggestion that you make yourself happy. You're in control. I tell you that every week. And if you don't make yourself happy based on the suggestions I give you, I'm going to come around, I'm going to get your address and come around and punch you in the belly. That usually wakes people up. So today's suggestion is be optimistic, look happy, smile, laugh a lot, have a sense of humor that'll add to your happiness. Also, to ensure that you get a copy of this book, I do a deal that's better than any deal you ever see on television for drugs or supplements. They say you can get this drug, send us your credit card, your information, and if you're not happy, even after 10 or 12 months, if you send us your purchase slip, we'll send you your money back, whatever you paid, and you can even keep the drug or the supplement. So I got a better deal for you. I've been offering it since the book came out. I haven't had one demand or request for a recite, a repay of the purchase price. But I induce you to get the book by saying, if you're not happy with it, you can keep the book and send me a purchase price, the purchase slip, and I'll give you double what you paid. So right away, it's a happy event. You double your money. But don't take advantage of it, of this offer, because some people had the idea, maybe I should buy 500 books and I could make a big profit. But I'm so sure, because I've gotten such great feedback, including one from CEO, chief executive, the president of one of the Fortune 100 companies. I send it to him. He reads it to his kids and his wife on a regular basis before dinner, and he loves it, and he sent it out over 1,000 books as gifts. He says he sends out thousands of gifts every year, and he's never gotten such continued feedback, because generally when he sends somebody a book or any gift, they call him the next day, and some of them do, not all. The next day and say thanks, but he never hears it about the gift they got him ever again. Some might call it a second time, the next Christmas or Hanukkah, because they remember they got a gift and want to thank him again. But he tells me with this book, with this gift, they call him up and they discuss it with him, and he sees that they use it and they're influenced. So again, happiness is contagious, just as being depressed and mopey and down and having a sourpuss is contagious too. And the other thing, as part of that, is plan your life around behavior. Your long-term goals, your short-term goals, and go at them with confidence. And as long as they're within your purview, your talent, there's no reason why you shouldn't accomplish. I had the experience. My father hired a cantor to teach me how to sing. And I went to 2 or 3 sessions. And the cantor was getting well paid, but he was a real honest guy and wanted to be forthcoming with my father. And he said, I have to tell you, Mr. Davidowitz, it was Davidowitz in those days. It's still Davidowitz. But when I went into the financial world, Wall Street, when I called people out, I said, hi, this is Morty Davis, and I want to tell you about a fabulous stock that you should buy right away. And they said, what'd you say your name was? Morty Davis. So I spent all my time, and that's the only thing that's more valuable than money. Maybe love is much more valuable than anything. So I decided one day to use Davis. And the only question I ever had is a few people asked me, are you related to Sammy Davis? Most of you wouldn't know who he is because he's not around for years now. But he was part of a great group with Frank Sinatra and Tony Martin. And they were there, I forgot what they were called, the Rat Pack. And also, he was a great singer, a great voice, songwriter, comedian, and he was black, and he was blind on one eye. And he also didn't have enough problems. He converted to Judaism. So he asked me, related. They asked me, I related in some instance as to Sammy Davis. And I said, I'm not sure. Since Jefferson, our president, one of our early presidents, found out through DNA, was denied for more than 150 years maybe, that he was related to any slaves. It's now been established that he was a father of a number of children with one of his attractive slaves. And they have the reunion so enough about me. Let's get on with but be happy, really. It's up to you. Don't worry, be happy, be happy. Smile. If you smile, it's hard to be sad. And other people around you will like you a lot better. So now let me introduce our esteemed guest, Rabbi David, counselor, lawyer, political scientists. I can't be more excited that we have Dr. Seidemann here today. Doctor, please.
Call me whatever you want. David's fine. I prefer David, okay?
Whatever you've been called.
What do you want to talk about?
I assure you, I've been called worse.
It's all right. It's all right. But I'm here to discuss what you want to talk about.
Recommend stuff,
When I don't recommend stocks.
even with my brilliant record, some of them go down. And the things I've been called in some instances as something I don't want to repeat.
All right. So we'll move on then.
Okay, please.
What do you want to talk about?
Our esteemed publisher, producer, Leonard Carey, made a list of what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
He sent you a copy of the
Who did? I even wrote notes on it.
Okay, so that's
So where do you want to start?
the current well, you want to start, are Americans better off today than they were 4 years ago?
Well, it depends what metric you're using. If you're looking at is the cost of eggs, the cost of gas, the cost of energy, all of that is higher now than it was before. So if you're looking purely economically, no, Americans are not better off. Our
Is
standard.
that the only standard you use?
No.
Those
That's
items?
no, cars. It's staples of life: bread, eggs. What the average American meat, the average American needs to feed his family. Prices are much higher. So that's economically. World peace. Well, I guess one could argue, why do we care? How does it affect Americans if there's a war going on in the Ukraine or if there's problems in Israel? Well, it does. It does. It affects the economy here. It affects the mood of people here. It affects the electorate here. So is the world / America better off now than it was 4 years ago? No. There's raging wars in parts of the world that put all Americans at risk. So I would argue that in a global sense, in a micro sense, and in a macro sense, I do not believe that Americans are better off. There's a level of anxiety today that didn't exist 4 years ago. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about the people that I think it's called Trump derangement syndrome, that were so anxiety triggered and provoked when Donald Trump was president. If you would ask them, they would say that, oh, they're much better off today now that he's gone. But that's only a true metric to measure if their fear was based on reality. If I'm afraid of this pen, it doesn't mean this pen is dangerous. I can have a real fear that this pen is dangerous, or I can have an irrational fear.
Did you pick up one of the exploding planes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. So that, and that dovetails with some of the other items on your list about the 2020 election and the upcoming election. Was it fair? Was it legal? Was it right? We can get, I'm sure we'll get into that. But the bottom line is if you look at what drives the electorate, or what should drive the electorate, because what should drive them and what does drive them are totally divorced from one another. If you look at what should drive the electorate, Americans are far worse off. If you look at what they're consuming and what they're being fed and what they believe to be true, then I guess there's an argument to be made that if Trump's not in the White House, America is better off. But you'd have to get a little bit more specific than that. I've seen many interviews where they ask, what did Trump do to destroy America? What has Kamala Harris done or Joe Biden done to build America? And people don't have the answers. There's a select small percentage of the electorate that is truly informed. And the rest of them on both sides, the right and the left, at least in my opinion, just believe what they're fed. So if they're fed lies, then they're going to believe those lies because they don't take the time to do the research that a person like you does before you recommend a stock, a person like I do before I advise a client as to what would be legal or what would be ethical or what would be proper. So I believe that most of the electorate just their opinions are based on false information that they're given. And they're so super focused. For a true Trump supporter, there's nothing he could do that illegal, legal, proper, improper. There's nothing that Trump could do that is right, that is wrong. On the other hand, for a true Kamala Harris supporter, there's nothing she could do that is wrong. So, and those people are locked in. Those people are locked in, and the election is going to come down to the few percentage of people that that are in the middle. And I give you a perfect statistic, perfect example. 63% of people that watched the recent debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump thought that Kamala Harris won the debate. But only 3% of that 63% said it was going to change their mind as to who they were going to vote for. Because people are so locked into an ideology as opposed to facts.
Good presentation. I'll tell you what it reminds me of. A fellow who was very wealthy, incidentally, because of my good luck, I had a very good track record. So the fact that I brought up somebody who lost money in the stock market with me is not typical. I don't want to miss it. And a lot of, I was just at a wedding. Michael Melnick had his, a daughter was getting married. They invited me, very Hasidic, religious guy. And this fellow at the same table I was introduced to, his name I think was Herzog or something. He owns probably the biggest kosher Jew food food company, kosher food company in the United States or in the world. He has started out as a wine merchant, and then he bought Manischewitz, which was public. He's become very, very big. And we talked a little bit, and he said, Morty, I want to tell you, I made a lot of money with your firm. So I was pleased to hear that, because he could have, sitting next to me, he could have put something in my food. But I want to tell you, a guy came to my office, been very wealthy, and he had reversals. He owned a lot of real estate. He lost it all and so forth. And he was telling me how devastated he was, how miserable he was. So I said, you're right. You've gone through a lot. But do you think it's so poor that you have to be so devastated? He said, well, yeah, I'm very poor. I said, are you married? He said, yeah. I said, you have kids? He said, yeah. I said, how many kids do you have? He said, 3. I said, do you like them? He said, I love them. The most important thing in my life. I said, if somebody said they'd give you $10 million you have 2 daughters and 1 son, that if you sold 1 daughter to them for $10 million, would you be happy? Would you
do it?
Would you do it? He says, no. How about 25 million? No, I wouldn't do it. I said, what about 100? He said, no, there's no amount of money that I would ever do that for. So why don't you put that on your balance sheet?
Mm.
The accountants only put down this paper thing that we call money, but that's not the value of your life. There's things that are really far more valuable. Your wife, your kids, your friends. There's nothing more valuable than having a close friend. That's maybe next to your own kids. The most valuable thing you could have in the world. If you have an adversity, a tragedy, you're so devastated. But if your friend comes to visit and gets you off that moment that you're suffering to, it's not smart enough not to say this too shall pass, but he tells you, he starts to talk about, you're going through hell. I know, I know what it is to lose what you lost. But remember, we have lots of good times that we're looking forward to. You and I have a date to go skiing in Vermont in December. And you get them off the momentary thing. You're not going to eliminate the pain or the scar and so forth. That's forever. But you can change it and
Attitude. You change your attitude.
have gratitude.
Right. You look at
Change
different
it.
matrices. You look at different ways to measure, right?
So you can make yourself happy or miserable, regardless of the event. It's much easier to make yourself happy if you have a positive event, but remember, having a great friend, that's nothing more valuable. If you have one good friend, one real true friend, you're a very lucky person.
I guess I'm a lucky guy.
You're very lucky.
I have you as a friend, right?
You're very lucky.
I am. All right, let's continue. There's so much on this piece of paper.
Okay, I just want to say one thing. And the best friend you should have is yourself.
This is true.
Be your own friend. Like when your friend is suffering and you love him, you'll go over there and do whatever it takes. You'll bring him some good food. You'll bring him ice cream. You'll bring him something that you think will give him a lift, and you'll give him a pep talk. Do that to yourself.
Gonna try?
We don't treat ourselves as well as we treat others.
Okay. Point well made. Let's continue. What do you want to talk about next?
In terms of are you better off, it's remarkable. People don't even think about this. The person in the United States who's on welfare, on food stamps, on help for poverty, for the destitute, is better off than any king that lived up to 200 years ago.
It's absolutely true.
Why do I say that? They have better choice of food. The king didn't even have refrigeration. And they got excited. I don't know if you remember studying your geography or history. There was a party when spices came from China or India or something. The average guy with food stamps can go into the supermarket and get Haagen-Dazs ice cream, cakes, meat, the most fabulous, maybe not as much as a rich guy, but can get all the things. So that's food.
Without the worry, so to speak, of, well, how am I going to generate the income to buy these things?
I'm saying without
the worry.
No, without the generating income.
Exactly.
If you're at the lowest level in the United States, the government doesn't let you starve. You get food stamps, you get other benefits.
But there are those people, Morty, that are caught in the middle.
But let me tell you something. Even beyond food, a king didn't have medical care. I was a kid. I had a toothache on one Saturday. I couldn't wait till Saturday night for my father to take me to someplace. So Saturday night, 11 o'clock, he found a dentist on the Lower East Side. Till this day, I can remember his pulling out my tooth with the pliers. And each time he broke off a piece, he put the pliers back again.
Did you pay him?
And crunch it.
Right.
I'm sure my father paid him. But I'm saying the king didn't have any special treatment like the poorest person can have in the emergency room. So, and I'm not talking about advanced medicine.
Right.
No pain, travel. A king wanted to come around the world. They didn't even know where they were going to or where they were going to land.
Well, this goes back to
And
the old,
also the cost of it.
right?
I was once on a plane. I had to come back from Florida. Suddenly, the woman next to me was on a vacation and was returning to New York. And she was enjoying the trip back. And I was asking her, how much did you pay for your ticket? And I had to buy a ticket that day because I had to get back right away. Emergency. That's where the airlines make the biggest money.
Yep.
From the corporate. So I said, how much did you pay? She said, $80. I said, what?
You probably paid thousands.
I paid $1,100.
Yeah.
For the same seat, the same everything.
Right.
So,
well, how do you give people the incentive with all of these programs?
What else is there?
Yeah.
Entertainment. A troop came through once in a while. Limited entertainment. The poorest guy, the poorest family that could afford a $75 television. These days you could get color television for $75. Maybe you won't get all the options that somebody pays for all these extras. But still, you get more free entertainment.
What's the incentive then? Right, but Morty, what's the incentive then to make oneself self-sufficient and self-supporting and make the next generation? If a young kid grows up in a family where everything that his parents need and he needs is given to him by the government, so then what's his incentive to get an education, to be part of a working society? The numbers of the people that are dependent on the government keep growing and growing and growing, and that is an economic burden that can't be sustained.
But that's a function of the kind of government we've evolved.
And it goes beyond money, Morty, because it's not just that it's a economic burden that that the country can't sustain. You're not creating a next generation of entrepreneurs.
But you could.
You could, if you would give the people the incentive.
All you got to do, there's people that want to work. They feel like idiots if they take a job because they're living much less well
right.
than if they stayed on the benefits that are given free. So everybody that works in this country, in the United States, should get a living wage. That means that it's enough to have a decent life. We don't have that.
Well, there are states have minimum wage, and the government has a minimum wage.
The minimum wages.
You're saying that the minimum wage is insufficient, but the concept of minimum wage does exist.
I'm saying the concept should
yes.
If you're willing to put in 40 hours a week, whatever the job is, so McDonald's says, we can't pay that kind of pay. What do you mean you can't?
Yeah, look at their balance sheets. They can.
In Denmark,
right.
In Denmark, McDonald's pays, I think, $7.25. That's the minimum wage. They said if you raise it, we'll have to lay off so many employees. We'll lay off all the employees. We'll put it on an automatic robot.
Right.
And so forth. Denmark, they're paying $20 for the same service, hamburger and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, there's something you should be aware of if you're not. The UN or some other organization does an annual survey of which countries are the happiest.
The happiest?
Yeah. So
I think I saw this a few weeks ago.
You should think the United States should be number one.
Wasn't. It's Denmark, I think, right? Denmark. And I think Israel was third or fourth.
Yeah, third.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
But the fact is all the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, Denmark.
It's where people have a sense of purpose. That's the matrix for happiness, or sense of purpose.
They also have a life.
Yeah.
Because nobody works and doesn't get paid. I told you,
Right.
they're getting $20, the guy in the United States, because we pay. I'll tell you an interesting thing and then we'll move on. This is related to economics. One of the great economists of the United States, who won the Nobel Prize, a Jewish guy out of the University of Chicago. His name was it Milton Friedman?
Milton Friedman.
Milton Friedman said, the only role of a corporation is to maximize the income, the profits for shareholders. That means they're saying, and that's what we're living through, greed, and because it should have a concern for its employees, should have a concern for its community, should have a concern for its hospitals, for its nature. We're like all on the same ship. It should have a concern for people in the world, throughout the world. We don't have.
He also wrote, because I know on your list also was a discussion about tariffs. Milton Friedman also wrote that tariffs, there's a debate whether it's a good road to walk down or not. But he wrote that the tariffs in the 90s did not cause the Great Depression. That the imposition of tariffs did not cause the Great Depression. And there is this long-standing debate whether tariffs is a good idea or a bad idea.
Terrible idea.
I disagree with you.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that. But there was a time in this world when mercantilism was very in vogue. And what was mercantilism? Every country wanted to get more gold.
Right.
That was the criteria. So how do you get more gold? You export more and import less. So that for exports of their own product, there was no tariff. To import products, there were high tariffs. The trouble with that is ultimately everybody figured it out. Nobody imported anything. Everybody tried to export, and it curtailed all trade.
Right.
So it didn't work.
Right. You need agreements with countries that provide you with what you need for either no tariffs or smaller tariffs. But when you want to build up your country's economy, listen, we know that when you import more than you export, that's what ruins an economy. That's what drives up inflation.
Not true.
So we disagree.
But no,
Milton Friedman agrees with me.
Let me tell you.
Those were his words, not mine. Those were his words, not mine.
There's facts.
Yeah.
On Wall Street.
Yeah.
In the 70s and the 80s, we used to watch the balance of payments.
Right.
And the United States was always importing much more than it was exporting. Always had a negative.
Who sets the price when you're importing? When China or Japan manufactures something and you want it, who sets the price? You, the consumer here, or China or Japan? China or Japan? Yeah, if you can manufacture that chip here, you're putting more Americans to work.
Wait a second.
And you're controlling the price.
Wait a second.
Yes, sir.
You're putting more Americans to work, but you're raising their cost of living dramatically.
How are you raising their cost of living? You're paying them a wage.
95% of the things you buy at Walmart, at Target, at Home Depot, come from China or one of those countries.
That might be the problem.
And China doesn't. The whole idea of Adam Smith was that
free trade,
and laissez-faire. Let the markets. That if you make something and somebody who needs it or wants it, you could get paid more than your effort.
Right.
Before, everybody was doing farming. You know, at some point, 93% of Americans were in agriculture.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Society has progressed, but yes, back in the day.
No, we didn't produce.
Right.
a
Nothing
farmer.
else. Right.
Today, we produce more than we need by far. What do they call it? The economics. The miserable, not the miserable.
The misery index.
Almost.
Yeah. No, I think it's
The
the misery.
science. It's the
It'll come to you.
hazel.
Listen, Morty, tariffs are nothing new. They started in 399 BCE in Athens. In Athens already they started. In the 1400s, Great Britain tariffs. America in the 1800s had tariffs.
Yeah.
It could be a stopgap measure to give a shot, a boost to the home economy to have tariffs. Maybe not forever, but a boost in the economy to say, let's do the manufacturing here.
Then why can't I think of that adjective? The adjective comes from Malthus. You know who Malthus was?
Even if I didn't know, I'm not going to admit that I didn't know. So I'm going to say, sure, I know who he is.
The Malthusian theory was
Right.
that the rate of production of food grows arithmetically.
Mm-hmm.
So we can produce more and more food. But the population of the world grows geometrically, I think it's called, or algebraically, I don't know. Geometrically.
So what you're saying, there's going to be more food than people?
It says there's going to be perennial starvation.
Oh, just the opposite.
Yeah, you know, if one grows arithmetically for food production and the population grows by, 1, 2, 4, 8.
You're talking about on a world scale or
Yeah.
a country by country scale?
On a world scale.
Okay. Because I don't think there's a food shortage in most of the developed countries that we know about. Where's there a food shortage?
I'm talking about back when Malthus was talking. There was not much international trade. So the countries that didn't produce farm products had lots of starvation. That's why he called it something science.
So you don't like tariffs? You think tariffs puts a clamp on free trade?
Yeah, of course. Tariffs raise the cost of everything. And the Chinese don't set the price. They offer it at a price that they can sell it at. They're competing with others. The proof is in the pudding, because when China raised the price, we're getting it from Vietnam, from Bangladesh. There's other people but the cost of producing it is 10% of what.
Right.
So you're not bringing back jobs here, except that the cost of getting more money from the poor people, the guys who wanted those jobs, would be the biggest loser.
I think you have to, I think you're talking about on a day-to-day basis, and I'm talking projecting into the future. When you bring back American manufacturing,
you're raising the cost of.
You're raising the cost of what?
The whole theory of Adam Smith is let the guy who knows how to produce it for the lowest price, let him make it, and you use your time in better ways. Why would you want to pay more to somebody? Even if it's your own people, you don't want to pay. There's no reason to pay. That's the whole theory. Capitalism is based on that. If you make something cheaper, somebody will come and buy it from you.
Yeah, but capitalism is also based on developing your country's economic base. And when you have to rely on China or Japan or Vietnam, there's a lot of other factors that come into play. If they disagree with you politically on something, they could decide that's it. No more chips. No more chips for your computer.
One area where that's true. on vital products,
Yeah.
you can't depend on another country. Like during the COVID,
Right.
we didn't have gloves because they were all the rubber gloves for medicine. We didn't have things in in hospitals that they got all from China. And it's true of other things, some mining products. So you don't do it, and military products.
Right. Like Israel. Israel has, I believe, has had their hands tied behind their backs to a degree for the last year because since they're dependent on other countries for munitions, they had to factor into the way they prosecuted this war as to, well, how much can we afford to anger the people that are sending us munitions? You saw it. You've seen it. Germany, we're not sending. UE, we're not sending. America held back.
Germany's public.
What? No, there was an article yesterday.
Yeah.
Germany's holding back munitions. America made it very clear. Biden made it very clear how he wanted this war prosecuted. You remember Kamala Harris said.
Worse than that is what causes that. The philosophy that's been prevailing that Israel's doing wrong things.
And well, that's a whole another, right. Israel is the only country that has to agree to its self-destruction.
Right.
That's correct. Right. The only country. Well, I want to know on all these campuses why they're not having sit-ins for the Ukrainians and the Russians, right? That war can go on. You don't hear a peep. Israel rises to defend itself, and we're murderers.
Well, why aren't we angry at the United States?
Yeah, we have to be complicit in our own destruction.
No, who killed more civilians than the United States in Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Yeah.
There were no military people there.
Right.
It was all civilian. And if that's the criteria, then the bad guys in the Second World War were the British because they killed more German civilians.
Israel is the only country that is not allowed to win a war. It's the only country that's not allowed to win a war. They start it, we respond, we're wrong.
Israel's, what do you call it? An
outcast.
An adolescent, whatever.
Outlier. Yeah, they're an outlier.
No, because
try to convince the world.
Israel has had more censures at the UN than all the countries of the world put together. Right. So,
you have to accept that as a reality that we're living in a world of and that's why I said at the very, very beginning, if your truth is based on a lie, then it's not true. So again, was the election fair? Was it legal? Yes, it was legal. Yes, it was fair. Was it honest? I don't know, because it depends on your definition of truth. And again, if your decision in life is based on a lie, then what you did is not the truth. So the United Nations, as far as I'm concerned, the UN stands for the United Nothing. That's what the UN stands for, the United Nothing. They start from a premise that is false. And therefore, anything they say about the Israeli-Arab conflict is false.
They dissolved the League of Nations because it didn't work. What does the UN do? They don't avoid wars.
Nothing. Show me one war that Israel started. Not this, not 1973, not 1967, not 1948. And don't tell me that it all started in 1948 when Israel became a state, because who started the 1929 riots?
I'm writing an article because I'm pissed off at guys that I admire.
Yeah.
Jewish guys. Another Friedman, Tom Friedman.
Yeah.
For the writes the opinion for the New York Times. The other ones is a guy who's the head of the Foreign Relations Organization. His name is Steve Harvey. He was president for the longest time. Always on television. Brilliant guy. So he's one of the four. The other guy was Abraham Lincoln, what's his name? The Secretary of State, currently. What?
Blinken, Anthony Blinken.
Anthony Blinken.
Yeah,
Right.
Anthony Blinken.
Jewish
fellow.
and that's been terrible on going over and saying ceasefire. Ceasefire means they won. They started the war, and they're still going to be in
Right.
place.
Somebody said, I don't remember who, and I feel bad that I don't remember who. Someone said that if Israel puts down their guns, there'll be no Israel. If the Arabs or Hamas or the enemy puts down their guns, there'll be no war.
Yeah.
Just return the hostages, put down the guns, it's over. We're getting a question. How will Trump lower inflation?
He won't.
He won't? Well,
He doesn't have one policy.
have you heard Kamala Harris's plan?
The only place he attempts to lower it, but does enormous damage in the process, is in drill.
Right. So that's what I was going to say. Energy, becoming more energy independent, lowering the price of gas, of heating oil.
I'm against that.
You're against what? Lowering the price?
Lowering the price. You know how much oil should sell at? $20. There's a cartel out there. If they
$20 a what? A barrel? Oh, a barrel. I'm saying a gallon. Yeah.
$20 a barrel.
Right.
Because Saudis it cost them $4 a barrel.
Exactly. Right.
They're the biggest producers. We tolerate the biggest external attack in the history of the human race.
Right.
You know, in the old days, I don't know if you study history of this part of the world. There used to be a bunch of militia or natives that attacked the banana farm in Ecuador. So the biggest banana producer and agricultural producer in the world at that time was United Fruit. So when they attacked one of our farms and took it over, we sent them, they call it battleship diplomacy. We sent the battleship over. Ecuador saw the battleship. They couldn't deal with it. They returned it.
Right.
The United States owned all the oil in the world. The Arabs got the oil as a gift. They got the countries. A bunch of Bedouins were made into royalty kings. You know.
I just want to go back to the inflation thing because I think it's a point that I tried to stress earlier. When you lower the price of oil, gas, you are lowering the cost of food. Why? Because it costs money to transport. So OPEC sets the price of oil if you're reliant on OPEC. But if we would drill more here, that would not lower the price of gas here. If we produced our own energy here, that wouldn't lower the price.
We can't supply it to the rest of the world. So we would have no ally.
So oil prices are so good. So whatever makes the price of oil go down? What makes the price of world conflict?
Let me tell you something. I used to follow it when I was a kid.
Thanks for that, by the way.
When I was a kid, I used to follow it.
Yeah.
In 1946, on that year, the oil company said, we're going to run out of oil in 12 years. 12 years, right?
The foreign oil companies or the American?
The world's going to...
Oh, no, but who said they're running out? The OPEC countries?
Exxon,
okay.
Mobil, they all have the same goal, raise the price, like Milton Friedman said.
Right.
You know, the obligation of the corporation
shareholders,
to get
public.
The most money for the shareholders. How do you get the most money for the shareholders? Cut the wages. That's such a selfish attitude. It's and they do that with drugs. I don't know if you know.
That's a whole other discussion, the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah.
It's a joke.
Right.
It costs them $3.
And they charge up the wazoo for it.
Eli Lilly charges over $100 for a month's supply. They only recently, with pressure from the politicians, lowered it
Lower the price.
to what is it? 20,
Do you think
35.
Do you think the government has the right to put a limit on corporate profits?
Yes.
So did Karl Marx.
What?
So did Karl Marx.
What do you mean? We have a stupid attitude. You know why? The minute we say it's communism or socialism, it's such a, what's the word? Pungent, such a pejorative. So we can't go there.
Right.
But
Maybe they need to come up with another term, because there is a happy medium between corporate greed and communism. I agree with you there.
Forget the term. If some country does something good that works, we should adopt it. Why? So China took the approach. They didn't say communist. They're not communist. Marx would turn over in his grave.
Right.
Because China has more billionaires than the United States. I think they said in China there's like 65 new billionaires every single day.
Well, listen, the whole idea of communism and socialism is way far away from the original intention. The intention was to spread the wealth, not to spread the poverty.
No, not only that.
Yes,
not
I'm saying.
only that.
Yeah, but in the true communist countries, you're spreading poverty these days. Not communism, except for that
I was
ruling
a kid,
party.
and Roosevelt introduced two things that are so basic to this economy. He introduced unemployment insurance during the Great Depression, and he introduced Social Security. And they screamed that Roosevelt's a communist.
Right.
The two of the things that if they try to cut it out, they'd be thrown out of office. So, and not only that, we are partially communists. How do I prove that?
Anytime there's government control over anybody's ability to...
No, but instead he should say, I'm glad I'm taking care of those who need. It says, I think, in the Jewish Torah and in the Christian, from those that have the most.
More is expected.
Right.
Right.
So what do we do? That's communism. We're taking from the rich and dividing it up amongst the poorest to make a fairer.
It's the adoption of a communist principle. It's
That's
not.
What I'm
it's
saying.
not. Right, but it's not a communist government.
I'm not saying.
No, I understand. Right.
It's not a dictatorship.
Okay, so right.
But we adapted these things.
Right. Whenever you take money,
the rich is a communist.
Whenever you take money out of somebody's paycheck to fund a government program,
and that's wrong. No, that's wrong to criticize it.
Oh, it's wrong to criticize it. Yes, I agree.
Even Warren Buffett says, why should I have a lower tax rate than my secretary?
Right. Well, there's answers to that.
The answer is
the answer is you take the risk.
No,
you reap the reward.
He applied for a job as secretary.
That's funny. So what do you think?
You pick one.
Who is responsible, if anybody, for the two attempts to assassinate Donald Trump? Is it just two crazy people, or is it the rhetoric, the political rhetoric, possibly from both sides? What do you think? Are these two crazy people with guns?
The two are not mutually exclusive.
Okay.
Because the two that tried are both pretty crazy. Yeah. They're not even tied to ISIS or communism so they're it's like the kids that shoot at schools.
Right.
They want notoriety. They want to be
right. So we both agree that these are two lone crazy gunmen. I agree with you 1,000%. Does
the highest insurance rate should be on presidents.
Yeah. But I would say the following. I would
Did
say
you know that? That
it should be. I don't know if it is, but it
much,
should be.
much,
Yeah.
much more of them get.
I would say the following.
Yeah.
If one believes or adopts the position that a candidate is a threat to society because of what they say, then if the response to that, even if it's just verbal, is that, yes, this person is a threat to society, then the person who's responding that way, because words do matter, you're saying that this person is a threat because of the words he says. Well, then when you say that about that person, then perhaps a gunman is influenced by your critique.
Of course.
So the more the left says that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy because of what he says, then if that's true, then your verbal response to him also has to be measured, because if words matter, then perhaps your words are inspiring a lone crazy gunman. And if you're saying, no, words don't matter, well, then his words shouldn't matter either. So I think that...
You're hitting on a sensitive point to me.
I know.
My kids don't talk politics to me anymore.
They don't talk politics to you?
They won't. They don't agree with it. Because Donald Trump used to be a good friend of mine.
I know that.
I gave a talk in Philadelphia because they invited me to introduce him. He was being on. After that, whenever he introduced me, he said, Morty Davis, he tends to be a little we're exaggerating it.
He embellishes. He embellishes a bit.
A bit, yeah. He was the greatest president ever, except maybe Washington and Lincoln. No, including.
Yeah.
The economy was best ever in his 4 years. Anyway, I don't know where he gets that. But so he used to introduce me. Morty Davis, the greatest guy on Wall Street, the biggest, the best.
It's because he never met me.
That's true. I should take you. Take you.
Tomorrow night, he's in Nassau Coliseum here. Yeah.
I loved what he did in Israel.
Moved the embassy.
Every president
promised.
Not only promised, every platform that they had, that they were going to move it. And then during their tenure, people said, well, why don't you move it?
Right.
They said, now is not a good time.
Right.
So it's never a good time.
Right.
So I liked what he did there. And I like say goodbye.
Time to say goodbye. Maybe we could do this again on another day. I don't know. You're a busy guy.
But I'm more afraid of something else. And my kids are strong supporters of Trump.
Mm-hmm.
They say, how could you even think about voting for Biden or Kamala
Harris, yeah, Kamala Harris.
She's this, she's that. And I say, in my book, if the United States disappears as a democracy, Israel's doomed. Because the only one that ever objects to things at the UN about Israel is
I don't think the United States is disappearing as a democracy whether Trump wins or whether Harris wins. I think the country...
It did.
It did, but okay.
It did. What happened on January 6th?
Democracy didn't disappear. If January 6th would have been successful, democracy might have disappeared.
If Pence, but didn't what's his name blame Trump, blame Pence for...
Okay, democracy did not disappear.
It didn't disappear because one guy stood up.
So democracy didn't disappear. That's my point. There will always be somebody in America to stand up for democracy, no matter who's the president of the United States.
Not if you follow his thing. I like that he's honest.
Morty, Morty, let me say this.
Well, I just want to tell you, I like that Trump is on.
Me too.
He was in a debate with Hillary in 2050. And the interviewer, the host, said, would you transfer your presidency? Would you transfer to the victor? Would you recognize the one who
won? And he said, if it was fair, right? That's what he said?
He didn't say that.
What did he say?
He said, absolutely, as long as it's me.
Okay. And I say this, and with this I part. If Trump wanted to destroy America, he would have done it when he was president.
He tried.
If Harris
He
wanted
tried.
to save America,
He
others say
he tried. And I believe that he would mobilize military
and do what?
and
do what?
take over the government.
Okay.
They were worried.
And take over the government and do what?
You're too young to know.
I'm 65. I'm not too young. I just got my Medicare card in the mail last week.
Were you around during
the Vietnam War? Yes, I was.
So
Richard Nixon.
One of the concerns was that Nixon would overthrow the government.
I remember
They
that.
said, how could he overthrow the government? The Congress won't let him. The Supreme Court won't let him. The, what do you call it? The Senate won't let him. They said, what are you talking about? There's 9 Supreme Court justices. What's he going to do? He sends in whatever generals favor him, and the rest goes. And the same with, there's a 420 congressmen. Many of them will join.
Morty, I started with this an hour and a half ago. It's an unrealistic fear. America is stronger than Donald Trump. America is stronger than Kamala Harris. We've had 47 presidents, 46 presidents.
I'm not afraid.
No one has been able to destroy the Union. Nobody will.
What do you mean? They came close.
Coming close is like the New York Mets almost winning the pennant. They didn't.
They robbed the presidency from Gore and gave it to Bush.
They robbed?
Robbed.
Okay.
They wouldn't, the Democrats asked for another count.
And?
They said there were no
Who
more
said?
counts.
The Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court.
Right. That is why democracy is safe, because there will always be a Supreme Court. That's what.
It's partisan.
What?
It's not what it's supposed to be.
Well,
judges are supposed
it's partisan.
Judges,
so they ruled against Gore, but then they ruled against Trump. So I think it's pretty nonpartisan. Okay, we're going to continue this.
They didn't rule against Trump.
Sure they did.
They didn't.
Every court challenge that Trump had to the last election was denied. So the courts ruled against Trump.
Long before it got to the Supreme Court.
I'm saying the courts.
No. So they brought it to 62 different courts.
And he lost.
And many of them were judges appointed by Trump.
And he still lost.
Not one of them found the slightest.
You just proved my point. My point is that even though Trump appointed them, their loyalty was to the Constitution, and they ruled against Trump, and that is why Joe Biden is the president of the United States.
It won't happen again.
Okay.
He won't let it happen again.
Okay.
I
don't know. You don't
understand this.
Maybe you're right. I don't know.
understand the psychology.
Okay.
If you don't understand,
I don't.
After all these years watching him, he's the one that condemns himself more than.
So then, how come he couldn't with all of his finagling? How come he couldn't make himself president the last 4 years? Because
he wasn't in a position.
No,
but if he gets to be president,
he was
never turn it over.
He was president, and he couldn't fix that he would be reelected. No, there's a system in place, and he lost. Okay, Morty, you're right, and he lost. His democracy is bigger than Trump.
He set up phony electoral colleges.
Did he? Okay. And he still lost. We got to go. I got to go to my next appointment.
I love you.
I love you more. And you know where I learned that from?
You'll get over it.
Where did I learn that I love you more from? From you.
Me. Yeah.
That's right. When I met you 22 years ago. I said I love you, Morty, and you said I love you more.
Who made the shidduch between us?
Me and you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We should wipe them out.
I know. Maybe.
You don't deserve it.
I deserve a lot better. I love you. Have a good night.
It was great having you back.
It was great being here.
It was great.
Great being here.
So we covered everything.
I think we